Okay, good evening all. Welcome to the Growth Planning Committee's meeting of November 18th, 2025. I thought it was just like February. So the year's going by very quickly, and we will start off as always with introductions.
Tom Smith.
Dan Saunders.
Ann Martin.
Mary Beth Gilbert, the Select Board Member.
Galen Webley, support staff.
Nadia Crockett Curran, support staff.
And online.
Paul Hogan out of town.
Excellent. Good to hear your voice, Paul. Okay, so first thing on the, actually one thing before we start, just Lynn got us minutes for the last couple. Have you had chances to review those? Okay. Paul, did you get a chance to review those?
Yes.
Excellent. So can we go through each one and sort of approve those? Or, let's see if I have the dates. Hold on, please. So we have minutes of 10/21/2025. I'll take a motion to accept or reject.
I make a motion to accept.
Okay,
Paul?
do I get a second?
A second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion on them? All in favor?
Aye.
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 So it's 4. Thank you, Lynn. Then we have the minutes of September 16th, 2025. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Any seconds?
A second again.
Second again. Any discussion on them? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
10/7. And then October 7th, 2025.
Paul Hogan makes a motion to accept.
Second.
Tom seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Excellent. So we got that done. So next is a debrief on the SMPDC webinar on LD 1829, and we have some nice handouts. Haven't seen them in a while, so thank you guys for spending some time on the paper copies. Appreciate it. I was not able to attend this remotely as I was somewhere in the Midwest working at a site. So anyone here have the opportunity to actually sit in?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. So any overall, sort of an overall as before we kind of dive into the different slides?
No.
Do they have a copy they put on the screen?
I can put it up.
You want it? All right. That'd be good to show.
Yeah, I think it was a good overall. I think they did a great layout of giving us a walkthrough of the new laws, how the laws are segmented from each other, what each law entails, the timing of the laws. And then they, so they did the easy ones first, the small ones, and then they went into 1829 in more detail. And just like, Nadia and the team had given us those visuals with the Lego box,
Yeah.
Southern Maine Planning and Development gave us a nice slide on slide 7, to help get the understanding of minimum lot coverage and start walking you through density growth and what it entails. So I think, from a high level, it was a great start.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys thought.
Hey, Paul, as a Zoom user, do you have any feedback on the LD 1829?
No, I thought it was very helpful. I was kind of interested to know what kind of feedback people were giving to the state for the new legislation that was being talked about? What were the problems that people saw? I didn't get a sense of that
Okay.
in terms of us knowing where we stand and what could be changed.
Okay. Is there an opportunity to provide public comment on some changes?
There was until October 28th, I think.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So that should be available for people to review somewhere, I would think, right, as public record.
Did the town send anything in or relied on the municipalities group?
Yeah, we did not submit anything individually, but I know that Maine Municipal was submitting some information and feedback to the state.
Okay.
And again, in conversation, so Nadia and I went to the Northern New England Planning Conference, and LD 1829 was a product of discussion with all the planners throughout the state of Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Vermont and New Hampshire have actually already adopted similar language, so Maine is a little bit behind what some of these other states have already done for zoning and home rule reform. And so that topic did come up about the Maine planners, and right now, again, the Maine planners we're not rushing ahead because we know there's clarifying language and then the rulemaking in addition to that, that's going to maybe change some things from what this summary that you've been provided with is going to maybe highlight some more clarifying features. One that, again, I was concerned with is, are we allowed to exempt areas in floodplain from the lot size requirements? And so that's still unclear with the legislation, and I think that's something that they're going to have to take up with possible legislation change.
And when would we have, when's the outlook for when we would have more clarification from the state legislature?
My understanding is tentatively there would be a bill introduced in January or February, and then action sometime in March, April timeframe.
Okay.
But I don't know how fast the legislature, how they work on it.
I forgot, how did this one interplay with the shoreline zoning? Does shoreline zoning still have precedent?
Shoreline zoning still has precedent, but you have areas that are outside of your shoreline zone of the 250 feet. So what do you do in those cases? But they're in floodplain. Kennebunkport is a little bit more restrictive in our shoreline zoning because we allow anything that's in floodplain to be considered resource protection, but the law does not say that, hey, the minimum lot standards have to apply for shoreline zoning purposes.
Okay.
We don't recognize net residential area as part of, we don't count anything in the floodplain as net residential area. So for density purposes, we don't count floodplain, which I think is a good public policy perspective to take because we should not be encouraging more housing in flood-prone areas. But that's not the case across the entire state.
Okay.
When you mean, sorry, Galen, when you mean we don't count, that means in terms of the person's accounting of the size of the lot size, that's excluded?
Yeah, we don't count for lot size. Lot size still includes all land, but the density, so that's the net residential density, or net residential area is what we call it in our land use ordinance. That is excluding all your wetlands and then your floodplain areas. If you look at the definition for net residential area, we exclude those items.
Okay.
Just like right away, utility easements, anything like that, we would exclude that from their net residential area.
Thank you.
Yeah. But still 5,000 is a very small number compared to what we've had
Yes, absolutely.
currently.
So the board, at the last board meeting, select board meeting, the board was highly interested in 1829, and I can't remember who mentioned it, if it was me or somebody else, that, Southern Maine Planning and Development, or Galen, if you were there, we were gonna have a combined meeting. I was wondering, that we might need to do some grounding first before that meeting. So for example, what I had in mind, and I was looking for your, all your feedback to see if this was a good idea, but to sort of come forward in front of the board and remind them and people watching, you know, what is our growth area, you know, show them specifically what is the growth area, you know, what the density area pertains. And then as they did these examples, sort of put in somebody's mind an actual thing, you know, like this part of town could have this house removed and this type of structure put in, just so that there's a baseline understanding before we get Southern Maine Planning and Development in. So for example, just have a good clarification of what parts of Goose Rocks Beach are, you know, is or is not in the growth area, what part of what people think of town proper is in growth area. You know, because then there's other things like you were talking about, Galen, like, you know, as soon as you start laying on the other layers of, is floodplain included, you know, I think that just starts building on. So I think we do have to establish that base. Thoughts on that, or?
I think anytime we have that opportunity to educate, right, the town folks, I think would be good, so.
Would we, when is Southern Maine Planning thinking of coming in?
So they were going to do, they did the webinar as like a baseline,
Right.
and then they were going to hold regional in-person with the different communities, like they're gonna separate it. From what I last spoke with them, they wanna keep it in a focused region, so maybe it's the Kennebunks, that they would have a joint
Oh,
discussion with the public to understand what those changes are. Because they have to cover most of York County. So I would assume they would keep the coastal communities together in that discussion. Because again, there is so many communities that are impacted. They have limited resources. They have limited staff to just do individual meetings at each town. They're going to have those in person though.
would it be good then to do that? So here's just, again, I'm just looking for input and thoughts, conversation. Would it be good then to have like yourself and Dan come in front of the select board and, you know, give that baseline, you know, here's your growth area, and then maybe just flip through, because some of the select board members did attend this, but at least sort of flip through it. You've already submitted questions, so maybe to just get some of that high-level stuff off before we got into a bigger meeting with Southern Maine Planning.
Yeah, because I mean, there's gonna be parts where it is on a micro level, we're going to have more detailed discussions in the future as it relates to, okay, how does this impact our land use ordinance specifically to Kennebunkport?
Right.
And, you know, the one thing I will say about the illustration, I think it's great, SMPDC did this as a good start, but, you know, Lonnie and I were discussing about actually, you know, creating some simulations of this is what 20% lot coverage looks like in Kennebunkport on a lot, and you can see a tangible representation of what that would look like as a potential help. And then also if we change the definition of lot coverage from 20% of just buildings to 20% of all impervious, this is what it would look like, to give you an idea of 5,000 square feet, what that looks like. But that's more down the line as things get ironed out, because I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe what we do is we do it in steps, and we at least get this, you know, front part done, which is, you know, really basic building blocks, growth plan, you know, what is the growth area, what does this, what does the law, almost like a synopsis of this, and then we can say, here's the things that are coming, that you're looking to give as aids, you know, as we progress further. And then maybe any issues that the growth planning committee gives you, Dan, you can talk to the select board about, you know, some of the concerns from the growth planning committee, or some of the areas that this committee, along with Galen and Nadia, feel, you know, are, you know, either questions that we're looking for answers for to get more clarification. I think just to sort of give everybody a roadmap of, okay, here's where we are, here's where we're headed to. Because I think there's a lot of noise out there, and I think if we at least start putting out some of the data that exists today without all the answers, at least we'll start the understanding. How do you feel about that, or do you think?
I think
Quicksand?
we can explain the elementary, like, okay, here's what a growth area is, this is where it is in town.
Yeah.
I think that's important to highlight. I don't want to go too much in the weeds of this language until they clarify it.
Yep.
Because I don't want people to say, well, you said this
And then it changes.
in November and then it changed to something else, and yeah, who do we believe at
Yep.
that point? So I'm more than willing to give a high-level overview of, growth areas, growth permits, how they all work, and then how this is potentially changing with the 5,000 square foot lots, but I don't want to go too granular with things.
Yeah, and I think that would be good too, like on the growth permit size, because you got the great chart that shows, our report to date and how we've been tracking.
Yeah.
And then what this, if it stayed as is, what it overrides, right? In the permits in the growth area, it would be important for people to still understand that rural still exists, because I know we had some people speaking or asking questions at the, one of the board meetings, and you could already see the confusion. So I think those things are just known, and we'd be good, I think. So I think there's things, like you said, there's things that we could lay out a good foundation, and then as more information comes, we can keep building on that. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Well, I think the first one would, as I've talked about, really is to talk about what the comp plan is today, what the town is today, what the growth areas are, what the transitional areas are, what the rural areas are, what the growth permit management system is and why we have it. So it gives us opportunity to work, the goal behind it was to give us opportunity to work on infrastructure, right?
Right.
The hope would be that you got most of the area going through your growth. We're not seeing that, of course. Right? We see our rural and our transitional areas permits are sort of sucked up first before the growth. But that wasn't the idea behind it, right? But we could talk about that. I think we talk about what's today, shoreland zone, what it is, how much does that affect our town? Right, so that people can see that, visualize it, because we've got plenty of maps that we can show on that, right? At least then when things like this start to come around, if they're gonna go and do it at the high school and have Arundel and Kennebunkport all there, as an open discussion, at least people that go will have a basis. Okay, this is what we're doing now. Now they're showing something that might change that, right? And, then we can go from that point. Right?
Yeah, so for example, I've already been getting asked questions from some of our residents about why can't we reduce our growth area? Why can't we get ahead of this, sort of thing. So I think that's why laying some of the groundwork would be good to understand. And the level of permitting and that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
okay. And that there's, there are changes, we've already seen changes, right? We should bring up LD 2003 and what that changed, so that should be part of it, right?
We haven't seen an ADU, we don't track the ADUs, or?
We do track ADUs, and it's actually funny, I just had a contractor come in today asking about ADUs. Kennebunkport actually was on top of the ADU adoption process, and we didn't have like an owner-occupied occupancy of the ADU requirement like other towns did, which was something that was in the legislation they prohibited.
In 1829?
Yeah. So we never had that restriction in, but we have not seen a huge influx of ADUs all of a sudden that people were going to put these in. We haven't seen it.
Right.
It's not, and even the contractor, he said, I was expecting a lot more people taking ADUs out. I'm like, they're not. I don't know. Maybe it's the cost, material costs right now, building costs are still high. Contractor, labor, they're not building them.
Can I ask, with regards to that, it seems that there are a lot of properties in the downtown area that have additional units being built, either above a garage or in addition to, and are those not considered ADUs? Or those just a cottage that's associated with the property, the main house?
So, you know, I won't go too much in the weeds, but there are people who are putting, they're called bunk houses.
Oh.
And they're accessory like a garage structure, and they just put bonus space above. And that bonus space might have a bedroom, and it might have a countertop and sink, but it doesn't have a permanent cooking facilities. And because it doesn't have permanent cooking facilities, it's not considered a dwelling unit. That's the defining feature of a dwelling unit.
Are they rented out? Do we
We do
have
not know.
information? We don't know?
No. They usually say it's for bonus space for their family.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that, and then I had a question, but this may be going into too much depth, and we'll be learning more, which I think is a great idea to understand how this applies to us. But when I see the one extra story, 14 feet allowed above the zoning limit, and then I see a possibility of 5 properties, you know, 4, at least 4 on a 5,000 square foot lot. Do each of those units have that 14-foot allowance permitted, or is it one of those buildings that has 14-foot allowance?
So it's for any affordable housing. My understanding is any affordable housing can take advantage of that 14-foot increase.
So any unit.
Yeah, any building. And that building area, that increase has to be affordable.
So, just to make sure I understand this, on this 5,000 square feet,
Yep.
you've got 4 houses, and each one of them can go 14 feet higher than we currently permit. And each of those 14-foot higher units, it's not a bunkhouse necessarily, but it could be a rented unit at a lower rate, so it would be considered workforce or affordable housing.
Right.
Has to have it.
It has to be
Has to
affordable.
have it.
Has-
Has to.
Yeah.
So in order to get to the 14 feet, you have to have the affordable housing within that unit, within that structure.
And so who monitors that? Who makes sure that it is an affordable?
Yeah,
unit?
so what Kennebunkport does, because we have a unique relationship, we have a housing trust, so they were established for affordable housing. They are currently our only affordable housing developer in Kennebunkport, but there are covenants that they put. In this case, the model of the trust is they usually own the land, and then they create the structures. So technically, the trust still has the ability to regulate who goes into that unit. For when they move in. That's the caveat. You can't they don't keep checking up with them afterwards. Like, that's just administrative nightmare to, every year you make maybe an extra $1,000 or something, you're over the threshold and you're gonna evict them. Like, no, it doesn't, it's just when they move in. And so Maine Housing has a similar requirement. So when you buy a house on affordable housing, or you're renting, like you're having these units, you just check whenever the person, the occupant that moves in meets your income thresholds for Maine Housing, for affordable housing.
Okay.
But the builder that's gonna do this on these lots would have to apply for the affordable housing
Yeah.
exemption through Maine, and also make the town aware so that they can get the 14-foot clearance. So it's not like additional 14 feet is just gonna appear without the town's knowledge.
Yeah, they have to give us like a deed restriction or something in place that says this is going to be how, we're going to keep this affordable for 20 or 30 years, whatever the requirement is for Maine Housing. So,
Oh,
that has to
okay.
run with the land. So we wouldn't issue that building permit until they give us that evidence.
Okay, thank you.
That's within an affordable housing development though, right? It's
Right. That's for
single-
affordable housing, yeah.
Not a single structure, like a residential structure, I'm gonna make it for 14 foot or say multi, and I'm gonna rent out one space. That's as affordable housing. That's not allowed, right? It would have to be within a development that would go through site plan review, right?
So,
I don't think so.
we can, that's something that I still need to figure out if they would still go through site plan review. Currently, they exempted them from the multifamily, so multiplexes as we call them. They are exempt from subdivision review if they're on a lot together. They're not being split to trigger subdivision. So I still need clarification on that aspect of,
Okay.
okay, does this trigger site plan review? Because we still have a conditional use requirement for
Right.
multifamily. And that's unclear right now, how that would work. But to answer your question, so if they had a single family, but they want to make it affordable, can they go 14 feet
Yeah.
high? I need to find that section.
Guess that's getting into the weeds. That's just, be something we would certainly want to know.
Shall allow subject to review by the municipal fire and affordable housing development. So we go off the definition of affordable housing development
Right.
in the state law. And I believe we had that, I think we mirrored that in our
Yep.
land use ordinance.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
So something like 50% or more of the housing units are affordable, right?
Right. Let me pull that up.
So to me, it seemed like it would go through our planning board to do anything like that. And it's not, just I have, land I'm gonna sell and someone's gonna build 4 units and make 2 of them affordable and make those 14-foot tall or something like that.
Yeah, the state language that we're looking at here, affordable housing means decent, safe, sanitary dwellings, apartment, and living accommodations for low-income and moderate-income individuals. Main housing authority is defined main housing by rule. And then the affordable housing includes but not limited to government assisted housing, housing for low-income and moderate-income families, manufactured housing, multifamily housing, and group and foster care facilities. And,
So,
yeah,
does this,
our definition of affordable housing goes a development composed of single-family dwelling, two-family dwellings, or multiplex dwellings, or any combination thereof, which a household whose income does not exceed 80% for rental housing and 120% for owned housing in an area median income can afford a majority, 51% or more of the units in a development without spending more than 30% of the household's monthly income on housing costs. For purposes of this definition, housing costs include rental unit, the cost of the rent, and any utilities that the household pays separately from the rent. And if it was home ownership, it's the cost of mortgage with principal and interest, real estate taxes, including assessments, private mortgage insurance, homeowners insurance, condominium fees, and homeowners association fees. So the answer to your question is yes, I think they could, under our current definition.
All right.
I was gonna ask, how does the definition of affordable housing change? I think you answered that question. As those parameters change, the definition of affordable housing will by definition change, right? Incomes and family sizes and cost of living and so forth. As those things change, the dollar value of affordable housing will increase per those driving parameters, correct?
Yeah, so they do assessments on salaries, like what's the average median income? And then that, certainly main housing will adjust those tables from time to time.
As those tables change, then the cost of affordable housing will go up and up and
Yep.
up. So it's not static.
No,
Okay.
yep.
so I have a question. If you have, I'm really looking at this page 7, and then how they depict the 5,000 square foot, so that when you look at this, it looks like you would have 4 separate buildings. Is it possible that this would be all connected,
Yep.
all attached?
Yep. Yeah, they could be attached. It doesn't, I think most people, they think of 4 units, they're all together, multifamily. But they're showing you an illustration to say, well, you can do 4 cottages if you can figure the lot in some way. You can make it work. Or you can have 2 duplexes, kind of side by side, mirroring each other. So yeah, just 4 units. That's what they're trying to illustrate
Okay.
to people.
I just wonder, when, for example, in Virginia, this seems to be a highly popular design, is to have the townhouse
Mhm.
look. And I wondered if that was something that would be permissible here with this language from the state.
Yeah, we don't have requirements of
Yeah.
setbacks from other dwelling,
Okay.
other structures, so you can put them right up against each other as long as they have their firewall rating that they need for between dwellings, that's quite all right.
Okay. Would we be able to have some requirements, for example, that there be satisfactory noise control between the units so that people have privacy? You know, building standards? Can
I don't
we-
know how we would regulate that or
Yeah.
administer
Can we
that.
I
not
mean, they
have-
do the firewalls, and that's usually what people,
and they
if you
accept
share a
that?
wall with somebody, you share a wall with somebody.
Yeah.
It's sort of
Okay,
the way it works.
all right, thank you.
They removed the requirement for sprinkler systems, so I hope they wouldn't have one there for noise.
Yeah. When you were with the other towns in New Hampshire and Vermont, the parking aspect of it, for those that are in a town like ours, was there any lessons learned, or did they actually run into any issues? I mean, did they have the same thing where they?
They had
redu-
one space requirement, yeah. There have been some that they require that one space requirement.
Right.
I think what people's concern, especially with multifamily, was they were concerned with having all the parking out front as a sort of that aesthetically did not look design-wise. They weren't happy having all the parking out front. It almost looked like a complex.
Yeah.
So what they did is, in some towns, in their design standards for their presentation, is they actually required that all the parking had to be in the rear of the lot. So it was their way of getting a driveway, and then all the parking was in the back portion of the lot. So aesthetically, it was just open space in the front.
Okay.
And so all the other stuff was in the back. That was their way.
And then what about for the additional cars? Because they only need to make room for one off-street parking lot
Yeah.
per residence, and usually there's more than one car that goes with a.
Yeah, so that's the minimum standard, but the developer can put in more spaces if they need to, and what the towns have seen is that usually the developer puts more than just the bare minimum of one, because if they know that there's more people that wanna park. So that's how they addressed it.
And does that cut down on their capability for either structures or how to locate the structures? Like, would some builder in our area, because of the way we're set up, opt not to put the parking and just go with the minimum and then force the others on the street?
So no, you would still regulate your on-street parking. You still have the power as a town to regulate your on-street parking requirements. So that was certainly, they still regulated theirs. That didn't change. You couldn't just park overnight and without getting a ticket, like,
Yeah.
or you have no parking allowed whatsoever. We have roads where there's no parking allowed. So you still, we as a town still have ability to regulate what's on the town ways.
Okay,
Private
Okay.
roads, I can't say anything, because that's,
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Hey,
you.
Galen,
yep.
and on that same screen page, like 7, under current law, if I have a big old house and I'm on a 5,000 square foot lot, am I limited, if I wanted to break up that house into condos, am I limited by minimum dwelling unit size that would change under this because I'm allowed to, is there still a minimum dwelling unit size?
Yeah, we would have to change our, depending on the area, my understanding is we would have to change it depending on, if we're in a growth area with sewer and water, if that's what the
Right.
question is. We would
Yep.
have to change our density requirement to match that of what the state is requiring, which is we have to allow, 4 units for the first 5,000 square feet. So it would be, what, 1,250, I think, per dwelling?
And could
Would be our
could
net
they be
present area.
could they be 250 square foot, 1-bedroom studios kind of thing?
Yeah, we don't have a minimum requirement outside of ADUs. We have a max for ADUs, they can't be more than 800, but we don't have a minimum in Kennebunkport. Unless I haven't seen that provision, but I've never seen,
I thought we did a minimum for the ADU. Yeah.
is it 100?
I thought
No, I'm not talking about ADUs, I'm talking
What do you
about,
need for ADU? Yeah, it's 190 for an ADU is the minimum. But we don't have a requirement for dwellings in Kennebunkport,
for a minimum.
for minimums.
And things like that, Are we able to then go through and, like, make those types of, as we go through this and understand it deeper, are we able to go through and make those minimums, or does this law preclude us from now changing any ordinances? What's the understanding or guidance from?
My understanding is as long as we're treating them the same as a single family, we can do whatever we want when it comes to, that's the goal, I believe, of this legislature is as long as we are, the spirit of it is to keep it consistent with what a single family is.
Okay,
And I mean, our town, we have not kept it consistent. We've done certain things, but in other areas, like our density requirements, we don't. Lot size requirements are different for duplexes
right.
than they are for multifamily. So we are out of compliance, but I believe that's the intent of this, is to keep the dimensional standards. Doesn't matter if it's,
What it is,
One-
it's just
yeah.
they want you to be common across from a
Right.
single family.
they don't want single family only exclusionary zoning, which, you know, we do allow those type of other multifamily housing in Kennebunkport. It's just I think that's their concern, is that the housing, it was very exclusionary in the past with acre minimums and single family only in certain zones in other towns.
Could I ask for clarification when we talk about the number of units? I'm seeing minimum as opposed to maximum or limited to. So at least 3 units per lot, or at least 4 units per lot. So really, it could be more in a 5,000 square foot.
Yeah, so what they're saying here is if you want to go even more density, you can be more permissive if you want. But this is the minimum that we have to meet.
So our zoning language could restrict it to 4 units or
Yes.
5 units?
Three, whatever the
There.
minimum is, it
Yeah.
could.
Okay.
It's the minimum, this is what the state's saying, this is the bare minimum that you have to meet. If you want to give out, 8 units on a lot, you can be less restrictive if you want.
Okay.
But this is the bare minimum we have to meet today.
So that would mean that we'd have to make sure our language in the zoning ordinance fit what the community wanted with regards to the density.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The last meeting we had, I raised the question, the concern that,
Can you move the microphone to
Okay.
you? Thank you.
the last meeting that we had, I raised the concern that 5,000 feet divided by 4, as you mentioned, is 1,250, roughly 30 by 40 feet. That's a really small thumbprint, postage stamp size. I'm wondering, how attractive will that be? And of course, you can build up, I guess you have several stories before you reach your altitude requirement or maximum. But how attractive will that really be with a lot that small? I mean, 30 by 40 feet isn't very large at all, especially with a couple rooms on the first floor, bedrooms, living room, kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. How popular will this really be? Is this too restrictive?
Yeah, again, we will eventually find out. We don't know until it actually goes into effect. Certainly, I think people could I think they would have larger lots. I don't think it's gonna be 5,000 they're gonna try to do 5,000 for everything and make it that, I'm gonna have 4 units in that 5,000. I could see people doing a single family on a 5,000 lot, maybe a duplex. But to your point, it would be a small unit for each one, because Kennebunkport's lot coverage requirements at 20%, that leaves a 5,000 square foot lot at 1,000 square feet. I mean, that's building layout, you can go 2 stories, but that's still not a large dwellings.
So, but to that point, though, this is where you could get into what Anne Marie said, this is where you could get into the townhouses, which we don't really have that many of in town, right?
Mhm.
Now, when you went to talk to the other towns in the different states, similar to our ADU discussion, did they see any great shifts anywhere from when they instituted these types of density? Was there a population growth boom anywhere, or?
There was, some of these communities actually welcomed the change because they had missing workforce housing in their communities, or they also had a large, low to moderate population in their communities, and they didn't have the housing for those individuals. So it was helping people that were already in the area that didn't have adequate housing to begin with. my one observation I've made is a lot of these communities that were fairly welcoming of it, they also had public transportation, and were a lot more denser development, sort of like Biddeford and Saco, from when I looked at their demographics compared to Kennebunkport. So that was something I noticed just from attending, that it was not an apples to apples comparison for
Okay.
our two towns.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Galen?
I think the other thing is that I observed was, I think it was Vermont, they saw an uptick in more ADUs being constructed. Because they didn't restrict how many, I think you could have an ADU for each dwelling, if I remember correctly, for Vermont. And in our language, we restrict it to one ADU for the lot. So,
Okay.
a little different. Yes, Paul?
Two things. And I'm sure we've discussed this before. On these 4 on a lot of 5,000 square feet, what's the ADU allowance as well?
One for the lot.
Okay. And then the second question was the proposed regs that came out a while ago. I read them once and was scratching my head. Was there anything that materially changed in that proposal, or materially clarified questions you had about this?
You mean the proposed regs of the,
The 1829 proposed regs that were circulated and open for, comment a few weeks ago.
it's been a while since I read that one.
Okay, it doesn't,
Yeah, I'll take a look at it again. My understanding was that it did address some concerns about the how to define the density, but I still don't think the floodplain was addressed. That concern was not addressed yet. But let me read that again, and it's been a few weeks since I've,
yeah, I know, I read it and it was like,
yeah.
and in terms of anything you've heard, is there, and I know you can't predict what the legislature is going to do, is there likely to be any material change to these basics that we've been talking about?
I wish I had a crystal ball for you, Paul.
Okay,
I really don't know what the legislature is going to do. I don't know if they're going to put more rules and regulations on top of it. I had no idea.
Okay. And just to go back to this floodplain discussion, so what part of, Cape Porpoise, Turbots Creek, Goose Rocks Beach, those areas that I believe have sewer and water, I assume their growth because of that. And do we believe that the majority of those are in the floodplain?
We can pull up the map for that. To take I think Turbots Creek it is, if memory serves me. We'll have Nadia pull up the layers, that way we can look at it.
Where's the growth zone?
Yeah, we'll look at the growth zone first. You might have to refresh the map.
To the screen.
Is there growth transition at all? So no part of Moose Rocks is growth.
tell me what the colors mean again?
So
I can't see the,
blue is rural. I
Right.
guess I'll call this pink. Red is transition, and then the green is growth.
So how does this,
Yeah.
how would the state look at transition if they're defining, like 1829 sort of goes by growth as a nomenclature, but when they define it, it's any place that, if I'm reading it correctly, it's any place that has sewer and water.
So, under the rulemaking that's being proposed by the state, it means an area that is designated in a municipality or multi-municipal's regional comprehensive plan as suitable for orderly residential, commercial, or industrial development, or any combination of these types of development, and into which most development projected over the next 10 years is directed. It still doesn't answer my question.
No.
Yeah.
Because when we were on this session, I believe the lawyer, Phil Saucier, somebody had asked a question from one of the towns about if a developer came in and would either connect, pay the cost to bring sewer and water in, so an area that wasn't, quote, growth. So it seemed like that was the de facto versus like our map, which is green, pink, right? So if I went to how I read and listened to them, to this webinar, I would say that anywhere where we had sewer and water, even though we had it in transition, that would be deemed as, quote, growth.
Go to slide 8, though, in page 8 in that presentation.
But that's not in the growth area. But the question is, what about the transition area?
Right. Well, it has public water sewer, but it's not in a growth area. That's what slide 8, page 8 on the slides shows you. And it says we must allow two houses on a minimum 5,000 square foot lot. So 5,000 square feet is our lot size, and we must allow 2 houses, not 4.
Right, that's the only difference, I think.
On a 10,000, we must allow, I guess it's 2 plus 2.
No,
I'm not really sure.
2 plus 1.
2 plus
Because
1.
it's always the first 5. I think it's the way they did it.
Yeah, they have that shown on page 6, the slide 6. I mean, they wrote it in text.
So, in our transitional zone, our lot size for a single developer is,
Depends on the zone.
Yeah.
It's anywhere from 20 to 40,000.
Right,
Okay.
so back to Goose Rocks, all of Goose Rocks is like 40,000, which is basically every single lot there is now non-conforming. But with this, most lots would be conforming, and therefore, if I understand this correctly, a 2-family would be allowed, or 3 units on a 10,000, if you had 10,000. And those lots would no longer be non-conforming?
For density purposes, yeah, they're not considered, well, depending, Paul, because we don't know about the setbacks and everything else with that lot, frontage with shoreline
Right, no,
frontage. I can't, we can't.
yeah,
just
so
talking about
if we
density.
assume it's out of the shoreland zone.
Right.
And
If
we're
we assume
just,
it meeting all setbacks and everything,
Yeah.
yes, they would be considered
Right.
no longer non-conforming.
okay.
Right.
And so this is sort of unrelated, but let's say I have a non-conforming lot now because I have 20,000 square feet, and I wanted to build an addition, but I meet all the setbacks, but I'm still non-conforming. With this, would that change that? Would I be a conforming lot, and therefore I would be entitled as a right to build onto my house as long as I meet the setback requirements? Does this have an impact on that, or is this apples and oranges?
So if I understand your question, if you are in Goose Rocks Beach and you have a non-conforming lot at 20,000 square feet,
currently,
Yes, and you have one dwelling there currently,
right.
and you wanted to add
A garage.
a garage.
1829 goes in, 1829 goes into effect.
Correct.
And it says my lot size only has to be, for density purposes, 5,000 square
Mhm.
feet.
Then you.
Does
could-
does that change my nonconformity?
Yeah, I would say you're no longer non-conforming because you're meeting the density of that area, right?
Right, yep,
And you're meeting the setbacks, so you're not a non-conforming structure.
A good question would be whether or not that's only true if you're adding additional dwelling units versus an addition or a garage or,
But we
Some
wouldn't,
other-
we wouldn't let you add more density than what your lot could support. You still have to meet the requirements of the density.
right, so if he's got 20,000 square foot
Yeah.
where 5,000 is available to build on.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to build, I wouldn't think you could build an addition, take advantage of this to build an addition just for your own use versus building another dwelling unit
Why do,
to be.
I guess, why do we care? Like, if it's an
Well, I
addition
mean,
or
the
if it's
purpose
a.
behind this is to get housing
Right,
for others, right?
Yeah,
So
but-
that's not getting housing, that's not in the spirit of it.
no,
But
I'm
you
just
can-
trying to understand the impact, the unintended consequences
Well, that, I think you
of
just hit one.
this.
Maybe you
but
hit one.
you can increase the addition right now. There's no requirement that,
Well, if he was not conforming,
but how's it not conforming? Is it because of the density? Because of,
Lot size.
No, not because of density, because of
Lot size.
lot size,
right, because you don't have the square footage of 40,000
right,
square feet.
right.
Right? So that's the only reason you're not conforming, but if we change the ordinance to make it less restrictive, then you're conforming
but change
again.
the ordinance only for addition of dwelling units
Right.
versus expanding the home.
Right,
That's the point I'm making, right? That's the idea behind this is, you would have thought anyways, that the idea behind this was to make more dwelling units,
mhm,
right? That's why they're putting us through this rigmarole. And if we allow that to be taken to,
Garages or anything.
yeah, we're not, that's not,
yeah, but right
Right,
now,
but
even though the lot is not conforming because it can't increase the density, right? You can still put an addition on the property, like, it didn't matter if
Okay.
the law changed, it's still a non-conforming lot, but you can still make the addition.
By going through an application
as long as you
process.
don't make it more non-conforming in some
Well,
other
we wouldn't
manner,
let
right?
that happen, right?
Yeah.
Right, but that's my question. So there was always the 1/3, if your lot was non-conforming, you were allowed a 1/3
Right.
expansion, which we have talked about.
Which now we're talking about setbacks, which is different,
So that only applied to setbacks.
correct. Now, the expansion of the 30% expansion is because you're not meeting your setback requirements.
Ah,
of Either
Okay,
lot lines or the wetland setback,
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah.
okay.
And
I was thinking the same.
No.
so given our water area, where we have renters and stuff, to go back to, what we were just talking about. So if you were able to, if you're outside of the growth area, you could go to a 5,000, every 5,000, you could put 2 units. For the first 5,000, you could put 2 units. So if you had a 10,000 square foot lot, as they showed you here, you could have 3. Nothing in the law requires them to be, what do I want to say? Like, year-round residents or occupied structures.
REDUs require it.
ADUs requirement,
Yep.
but not this. So
Nope.
we could have a boom just for,
Rental homes,
well, short-term rentals, not even rental homes.
seasonal rental.
You guess the select board can always adjust the caps.
Does the ADU
Yeah, we don't have any
continue?
in Goose Rock's Beach. So we have to put some.
What'd you say, Paul?
My question was you just mentioned the ADU could not be seasonal. Does that continue
Yes.
under this?
Yes. The law never said that we couldn't put that restriction in place, and I think it's a sound policy. You know, the ADUs
Yeah.
don't have to get a growth permit, so that's the benefit of getting it. You get to go exceed your density for that lot. So that's I think that's a reasonable, and again, the law never addressed that concern.
So in the 1829, if I'm doing the density thing, the law will restrict us from putting any kind of permit limits on the growth area, but we can still put permit limits into the transition area and rural.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Unless the transition area has public water and sewer, then you have to go by this,
Yeah.
the
No,
lot size gets
you-
reduced to 5,000.
Yeah, but they still need to get a growth permit.
Yeah, my point is you still have to get a growth permit
Oh, yeah,
for that.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think our growth permits are codified within our comp
Yes.
plan, which is approved by the state.
Yeah.
But not,
So-
but I think that's the thing that we have to get clarification, is 1829 will overrule growth permits required for a growth area density.
I think it's key on the language and how it's interpreted, so.
Yeah, we have a percentage for how many growth permits we've issued, determines how many new growth permits. So I guess it's a good segue into
Yeah.
our
Yeah,
report that Paul, I think we shared a copy with you, but if not, here it is on the,
I can see it,
okay.
thanks.
So, this is your growth permits. We keep a tally of all of them as they are being issued. And so for the past 10 years, the formula states that, I don't have the percentage off the top of my head. It's in the Excel spreadsheet, but if we have, out of the total that have been issued, if it's less than 40, we still allow, the minimum per the ordinance is 40. So since the inception, I think it's always been 40. And then what we do is we take this document and we break up by the growth zones based off the percentages that were allocated in the land use ordinance. And so for the growth area, it's 50% of the available total goes into growth, and so that's 20. And then it is 30% of the transitional, which I believe is, am I doing 12? And then the rest are in rural, 20%, which is 8.
So it's, 2012 and 8.
Yep. And so there is a little caveat. There's a little section here that's administratively we have to deal with. And it hasn't been too much of an issue, but at the beginning of the year, the ordinance, the land use ordinance says you have to save 10% of your total growth permits for affordable housing. At the end in December, if those were not used up, we can reallocate them to those other zones that they came from. So at the beginning of the year, what we do as a town administratively is we take the 50%, the 30 and the 20, and we round it. So it's 2 growth area, 1 transition, 1 rural, that are kept for affordable housing purposes. And it just so happened this year in 2025, we had the Kennebunkport, the Neighborhood Housing Trust. They were approved by the planning board for 6 new units. So they took all 4 of those affordable, and then they took 2 additional from the transitional area. So that's why you'll see that there's 10 issued in the transition area. 6 of those are from the Neighborhood Housing Trust. And then you'll see in 2025 that the 7, there should be 8, but because, again, the Neighborhood Housing Trust took that 1, that's where that went. So I wanted to make that clear. So we actually maxed out for the past 2 years. We have maxed out in the issuance in the rural area, growth area of town with our growth permits. And then I added 2026 just so you can see, this is our queue. So this is people who have submitted applications who are pending start of January 1 for new growth permits. There are 7 in the queue in the rural area right now. So we've already issued for 2026 all the growth permits So anyone else who wants one is gonna have to wait till December if that one remaining affordable housing one gets reallocated, or they'll have to wait until 2027 for their building of their structure. And this is reflective, we've had multiple subdivisions that have been approved in the rural area, and that is why we're seeing that there's so much development pressure in that specific area of town. So if you have any questions about the permit,
What, like, when we look at the growth area at our map, do we have a roughly right percent of how much of the growth area designated is not developed? Like, is open for development? Or is it more to the point of, structure would have to be knocked down and then redeveloped?
so what you're seeing reflecting in your number trends here for the growth area is, you're seeing that your 40,000 square foot lot size requirements are too restrictive. Like, most of that area in the growth area, you can see it on the map, it's already been developed. And so you're not having people get permits because it's just, your zoning is exclusionary. I mean, that's what it is. Most of these lots, if you zoom into the village area, Nadia, you can pick some of the properties around there. I mean, click one to show them like how big that lot size is. Scroll down at the very,
0.11 acres.
yeah. 0.11 acres.
So about 4,000 square feet.
Yeah, so there's your almost 5,000 square foot lot.
So there's 4 homes right there.
So they couldn't add additional if they even wanted to.
So that potentially could be the change for our growth area then, right?
Well,
Because
keep 'em-
by default, we're getting rid of that restrictive 40,000 square foot.
Yeah, we're gonna get rid of that, and then again, we will not have a cap anymore for the
Right.
50%. So 20, they'll go well over that.
I think we need to be careful saying that, because I don't agree that we won't have a cap. I don't agree. They said that you cannot enact a growth permit restriction. And we haven't. We've done it. And the state approved it. So,
But 1829 overrides it, Dan. I know
I
you don't want,
think,
I know you don't want to hear that, but,
well, I don't agree. I think there's an opportunity to discuss the language
Yeah.
before we succumb to that discussion. That's my opinion. So I want to, just be careful that
I think that
what we
would,
say,
yeah,
we're
that
gonna
would be
do
an
until
area
it's-
that we
it's
would
done.
want to take back to get some, that would be an area where we would want to take it back and get our town attorney, right, to get
Yeah.
some.
an aggressive one.
but I mean, it's a
assuming it goes away.
it's a novel legal question. What happens to your comp plan when a state law
It overrides.
overrides or is inconsistent with what you have in your approved comp plan, which they required you to have and which they approved?
Right. Which you spent a lot of money on as a town,
Sure.
So, which I think is a valid question, right?
So what's the green, is that,
That's your
is,
growth area.
is that Cape Porpoise down there?
Yep.
Okay, that's the last green.
Uh,
Where's Cape Porpoise?
where at?
Cape Porpoise is over.
Right here.
Yeah, so that's the last bit of green.
Yep.
And then you go out. Nadia, what's the last triangle of green?
Down here,
No, up, keep going, up Route 9.
up here,
Yeah,
that is 80 Mills Road.
okay. Thank you.
And what we generally did for the growth area is we said, where's the infrastructure? Where's sewer, where's water? Water. And then we said, go 1,000 feet from that, thinking the developer might be, interested in and that's your growth area,
Mhm.
right? And then we also recognized we had sewer and goose rocks. It made no sense to make goose rocks a growth area, right? So that's why that just became part of the transitional piece,
Mhm.
right? And then
Yep.
your rural was outside of that. And that's why you had this sort of, because that's how the town got built out, right? With the sewer and its water was out from the center.
Could we click on, I'm just gonna point Nadia, really. Could we click, well, could we click on that guy right there?
This one?
Yep.
Yeah.
It just, I think there must not be anything built there, because the address is just Old Cape Road.
Okay. Do we know what the lot size is?
Oh, yeah. It's 9.59 acres.
Okay.
Put the wetlands on.
Then I don't recall how we handled the lot, right? Because you ended up, if the 1,000 feet went into a lot, I don't know if we added the whole lot or if we
Yeah,
back. I don't recall one way or the other.
And so the degradation of the green is what?
That's
on the-
wetlands.
But there was different greens.
That was wetlands.
So there's just different types of wetlands that they're showing, so this is, what is this, forested wetland?
Yeah, that's a plustrian wetland.
And this must be like a freshwater wetland or something.
Okay.
It's most likely a forested wetland.
Can we zoom back just so we could see more of the growth with the wetlands overlay? This is a good view. Whoa.
Yeah.
So Galen, that would be very crucial for us to get an understanding
What?
of whether or not they include wetlands and. Did we get any understanding
Yeah.
from the other states of how they interpret it?
I never asked them that question.
No.
No.
Do you have the overgraph of the shoreland zone that you can put on top of this too?
So I can't really see it with the wetlands, so I'm gonna take the
Yeah.
wetlands off.
yeah, thanks.
No, it really isn't.
So you can see there's kind of some like light blue.
Yeah, it's kind of hard,
That's shoreland.
it's kind of hard to see. Okay.
Floodplain off of here too.
Yeah. Hard color to visualize. So what is shoreline, the blue-gray?
Yeah, the blue hatch mark,
Okay,
that buffer.
got it.
It certainly goes more than just your shoreline, because it
Yeah.
follows the streams.
It gives more of
Yeah.
the streams.
Yeah, okay.
It's Dempsey's property.
Yeah, I think this type of view, you know, and just talking through this ground foundation would be good for the board to go through again. You know, we've got some new members and, I think it would help for everybody to get a refresh.
If you don't, was there any discussion about, in other words, considerations for the future and sea level rise and that potential impact to areas?
I mean, that's why I was concerned about the floodplain.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's good policy, but I'm reading the rules as we were discussing this, and it looks like it says dimensional requirements, and it says density. So density requirements is the maximum number of dwelling units allowed on a lot subject to the dimensional requirements. And all it says for the definition of dimensional requirements is mean requirements which govern the size and placement of structures, including, and then they struck out but not limited to, and they just said including building height, lot area, minimum frontage, and lot depth and setbacks. It's not mentioning net residential area, density. So I don't know. That's why I think there needs to be legislative change that needs to clarify this, that this is the
Yeah, so
case.
Especially say, for their own purposes, for the
Right.
state's own purposes, they've identified what you should consider for sea level rise through 2050 and 2100, right, which was 1.5 or 1.6 at 2050 and 3.9 or something like that at 2100. So you'd think that would at least be part of what they would plan, right?
Yeah.
I think they're going
Sorry,
for,
we force you to put growth in that area that's now being flooded.
Yeah, not good
Are you
policy.
gonna pay for the insurance for that?
Yeah.
Relocate those people?
alrighty.
Good. And there's actually nothing here that says we have to change our lot size, right, we could. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, right, there's a,
We have to change our lot size.
We have to go to 5,000.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I guess, the way.
Outside, so if you're outside of your water and sewer and your growth area, like in your farm and forest,
Yeah,
you can keep that 3 acres. That still can stay 3 acres. You can make it 8 acres if you want. It doesn't matter what you want to do for that. That's,
Unless you have water and sewer
okay,
to it.
yeah.
if
It's
you
just the way
start
it's
having,
written, it
we,
didn't-
I don't think we have.
No,
Yeah,
no,
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 not that far out.
no,
But yeah, that would be,
right,
if they did, yes,
if they did.
yes.
It's just the way it's written seems kind of funny, right? So if you had to change your lot size to 5,000 square feet, why would they say no more than 5,000 square feet for your first 4 units? Right, and no more than 5,000 square feet for each additional. So
So
it makes
there-
you think that your lot size could be 40,000 square feet, but you could break it up into having, whatever number
Right.
of units you can get on there.
It's like they indirectly talk about the density, but they, with the net residential area, but they don't clarify, okay, well, what do you need to determine for lot size
Yeah.
and net residential area to make sure that you're meeting that for upland area?
I mean, there would be no reason to have anything after how many you could have on a 5,000 square foot lot. 4. It doesn't matter what the next 5,000 square feet, because your minimum lot size is supposed to be 5, then 5 is 5, it's not 20. That's why it makes me think that you don't necessarily have to change your lot size, you just have to allow up to a certain number of
Well,
resident.
The one thing I thought of, like, this is, no one I think played with the scenario, but if you go to that slide, where is it at? This is me being, like, I have questions, but, so if I go to, let's go to page 8, that little demonstration they have there.
Yep.
So it's telling me that if I have a 10,000 square foot lot, I can have 3 units technically.
Mhm.
But if I break off that lot, make 2 5,000 lot, I can add another dwelling
Yes,
to that other one.
yes.
Right.
So why are we
So,
doing this?
yeah, to Dan's
I don't-
point, we don't,
Right, so why,
so this means you don't, so this means to me then that it doesn't require us to change our ordinance in terms of lot sizes. It just allows whoever wants to do something,
exactly,
this is the density they can put on it.
that's what I was getting out of what's shown here. I don't know what
Right.
the text says, but that's, what's shown here sort of implies that. You don't have to change your lot size. That you
Yeah, because
list-
if you have 20,000
Which-
square foot, I mean, the thing of it is it's evidently, it's the first 5. Because if you looked how they did the green, it's the first 5,000 gets the 2 units.
Yeah.
And then everybody else after that only gets 1 unit.
Which doesn't make sense to me, because then if it's 5,000 for 2 units, then just say the base density's 2,500, like why are we playing? And I guess we could do that if it just makes it simpler to, I just see this as
I
a,
don't think you want to do that, though. I think you want to,
yeah, but they're gonna do it if they split the lot in 5 years. You can split your lot in a 5-year and void subdivision, and then you can just add another dwelling to the property.
Right.
but it gives us 5 years.
Trust me, people do that 5
Yeah.
years. They
I
will
know,
do it.
I know, but that's
Well, I
okay.
mean,
It gives us 5 years as a
Especially if
town
you bought
to,
a big lot and you have four or five kids.
Right.
As soon as they're born, you
Right.
start splitting one off for them every 5 years, and you don't have to do the subdivision and all the rest.
I will say it's one of my criticisms of the subdivision law that I have is that they have so many carve-outs.
Yeah,
And administratively, it takes a lot for the town staff to, okay, figure out, you broke it off this year, this
Right.
one, like, what's your density? Like, it's a whole thing. But I looked at this and I was like, okay, well then I could just do
Yeah.
two, and just keep breaking off into two units.
and how do we define these units? Is it, so for the first, if I look at the blue box, and if I have a 5,000 square foot lot, I can have 4 units. And how is it defined? Are the 4 units 4 individual, does one person still own the whole lot?
They can conduit. State law allows them to condominiumize the lot.
Okay, but there's still they can condominiumize it, but there's still it's a condo structure, then it's not there's
Yeah.
still a common ground
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that type of
Yeah.
stuff. It's not 4 individual owners of each having 25 or whatever
there's-
square foot.
Well, they all have, wow.
Yeah, they have their
Yeah.
own, but it's
Yeah.
within a condo. It's not
Right.
separate, truly
And they
separate.
could give them like designated, like, here's your space, your common space to
Yeah.
use, like for yourself, just
Yeah.
for your garden or
Your
whatever.
garden, yeah.
Yeah,
And theoretically, if you had a perfect square, 40,000 square foot lot down here with your home on it,
mm-hmm,
right? And then with no restrictions from wetlands or anything else,
mm-hmm.
you could sell it to someone and they could knock it down and put in,
4 little cottages if they
all
want.
the cottages you want, right?
What did you say the lot was?
Say 40,000 square foot, I mean, they could do every 5,000 square feet, I mean, if we were to change our lot size to 5,000 square foot, then they could break that up into 8 5,000 square foot lots, which then they could put 4 units per lot. So that'd be
Every
32
5
units on the one that's
Every so
currently.
many years, though.
No, they just go through the subdivision, just go through the process.
Yeah,
Oh, the subdivision
And if
process.
if our permits ends up,
Yeah,
or
so
they'll
the-
do every
if we
5
don't find a
years,
lawyer
so-
that agrees with me, and
So
we end up
that's
losing
that's
that.
an interesting thing. So if the state doesn't come back and change, to force us to change our lot size,
What do you mean?
If this-
They are saying we have to have a lot size
mm,
requirement.
no, we just went through that saying that you can allow this much structure on a 5,000 square foot lot,
Mhm.
but this lot can just be a lot still versus
Mhm.
1/4 of this is a lot.
Right, for a 5,000. You're saying
Right.
5,000 square foot lot, that's the
Yeah.
minimum, yeah.
But we can still have a 40,000 square foot, we can still have a 40,000 square, in the growth area, we could still have a requirement for a 40,000 square
No.
foot lot.
But
Oh.
people have 40,000 square foot lots, because that's what they have.
Yes,
They can keep them.
Yeah, This is
But if
not-
somebody
this is a little bit
bought that-
confusing. We have to look at what the actual
Yeah,
text
so would
says.
it-
So I think you've probably read it, so if that's the actual text, you gotta have the 5,000 square foot within our zones, and that's what we gotta do, but this doesn't really highlight that. Their pictograms sort of imply differently. Any case, but that's, if you had a 40,000 square foot
Yeah.
lot, that was perfect, you could divide it by, into 8 5,000 square foot lots and put 4 units, plus an ADU
Mhm. Plus the
Right.
ADU.
on those 8, so that's 32 plus 8, it's 40 units.
so is there any lessons learned from the towns that you were in the other states of things that they wish they had done before their laws got enacted that we should be looking at now?
I think they looked at they did look at their design standards, and they had a healthy conversation of how they wanted their town to look like. So I think that's warranted to consider. And I believe they did look at their historical design standards as well to make sure that it preserved the character of their historical areas, of their community. So
Okay.
that was,
So we don't have a historical district,
we have 2.
but we don't have any historical
We have no
design.
standards.
We have no
Outside of the non-conforming lot size requirements, which regulates the pitch of the roof, yes, we do not have.
So is that something for the growth committee to think about, or is
Something-
for a
something to
recommendation?
think about.
Okay.
And there's no language, just to be clear, there's no language in there about what the use is. In other words, it's for residential, year-round families, whether affordable, not affordable, whatever that part is. I know that's not part of it. But
Right.
it could be, in our town, 40 rental units
No,
that we would have to then control with our
cap,
short-term renting.
Right, we still have a
process.
cap.
we still have a cap.
And you might have to adjust that cap, because if the dwelling units increase, remember, it's based off percentage, so. You can adjust that as a
Yeah, I
step.
mean, I don't like having to rely on that backstop. I mean,
I know.
the purpose behind this is to build housing for families to live in the state of Maine,
Mm-hmm,
right? But it can be used for other purposes that aren't in that spirit. And it's interesting that they didn't write it in a way to make that part harder, you know? Because I would have no problems if that's what we were doing, right? Now you got 40 units that people, young folks move here and work in town,
Yep.
have
Oh,
families, all the
seniors.
rest. That's great.
Seniors can downsize.
Yeah, in the non-tourist areas, it works.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the tourist areas.
Hey, Galen, other than the dimensional requirements, you know, if you had a 40,000 square foot lot in a growth area and you got subdivision so that you could put 4 on each lot, is there anything in our code that limits how close these little cottages could be next to each other? Or it's just the outside perimeter that we care about?
yeah, we don't have, as Anne Marie mentioned earlier, she asked about the townhouse style development, and I said, we don't have setback requirements from structure to structure. That's just not, we don't have that requirement. As long as they're meeting it for code, for, you know, that it's separated, firewall wise, that's perfectly acceptable and allowable. And I will say, like, for Kennebunkport, our subdivision standards are, they need a refresh, but there is, you can talk to certain developers in town. The requirements that we have for road standards, for subdivisions is fairly restrictive and it's cost prohibitive. So I think the scenario of an acre parcel wanting to go through subdivision review and paying for that cost, for 8 to 32 units, it's gonna be a significant cost, to put in that road infrastructure. That's just been my observation that I've noticed. And besides stormwater, that's a huge expense.
Okay. All right, so we've covered 2 topics, sort of in one fell swoop. Any other questions on the SMPDC webinar
No,
at this point? Thanks for putting this together.
thank you.
Can this be available on our site for people to take
Yeah.
a look at?
Yeah, I can ask Nadia to put it on our growth planning committee webpage. That way people have access to it.
See, I beat you to that, Paul. And then our permit report, thank you for that. I'll be honest, it's lower numbers than I thought I was gonna see.
Oh, okay.
Really, I mean, I knew that the rural area was always, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised that there are years here where there wasn't 8,
Mhm.
right? Transition, a little bit higher, and then the growth, I didn't think it was honestly that small.
Yeah.
I thought we were, going at least over 10
Nope.
each time, so. Okay.
Okay, I have a question on that.
Yep.
So these numbers are about a single-family residence as opposed to a bunkhouse being built?
So any dwelling unit, so a multiplex, a duplex, or a single family, each unit needs a growth permit.
Okay,
But
A
you
remodel,
put an
yeah.
addition on, that's just extra living space, that's not a new dwelling. And if
Or-
you destroy a structure, destroy a dwelling, and you reconstruct on that lot, which a lot of people do,
uh-huh,
that's not another growth permit.
we
We only count new
New
dwellings.
New growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
And ADUs don't need it.
ADUs don't get it either,
They don't
yep.
need it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
the whole idea when we did our ADU thing was really as one of the things we could do for affordable housing. There's a potential, right? So we didn't want to put restrictions on it, because we were trying to do that, achieve that. Because we can't control the land price.
Nope.
Okay. So any more discussion on growth management permits? Okay. So, I mean, at this point, you know, there's a built-in mechanism, if we were seeing all that growth, that it's 110% of the last 10 years or something like that, so that number would slowly increase over time. Right. So. Other business? Any other business? Any other business, Paul?
He's gone.
I got nothing.
You got nothing, okay. Good over there?
I'm all set.
All right, excellent. So, the next thing on the agenda is adjournment. Any discussion on that?
No.
If not, I'll take a motion.
What do you want to cover at the next meeting?
Next meeting?
Yeah.
So, well, depending on whether or not when Eric's available. So I'd like to, if he's available next meeting, that'd be great. If not, you know, we'll just have him sort of lined up when he is available, to discuss about the capital plan and how we, pull in a review of sea level rise and so forth on our maps to ensure we're not, and that's one of our strategies within the comp plan, that there's some process for that.
Should we go through the 2019 sewer report?
And then I think, since we're gonna have them, we should have probably a discussion about the sewer.
Can we get, can the committee get access to the 2019 sewer report, just so that people can flip through it before Eric shows up?
That'd be great, and that would just time it for when he's available.
I asked about the 2019 sewer report, after you mentioned it maybe 2 meetings ago. I'll need to check my email again to see what he said. So I'll follow up
Okay.
and let you know what he said. I can't remember exactly what the answer was, but I think it was a little bit more complicated than, yes, here's the 2019 sewer report. Like, there's something else happening with that maybe it's not like exactly, I think, what we're remembering it as, so
Okay.
I'll check, I can check in
I'll look at what I
again,
have too, because I think I had a hard copy of something that I wrote all over. So let me see what that was, and then I'll send you a screenshot of what I think I
Okay,
have that I'm referring to,
okay.
and maybe that will help too. Okay.
We did have the stormwater management, right, that was discussed, reviewed. I thought there were some minor tweaks.
Is there anything else that you wanted us to look at for that?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm still have that issue with in the rural area with the 50-foot buffer. I've got concerns about that. So if that was gonna go through, then we need some type of how that would be handled as an exception for those lots that will not be able to achieve that. I don't know if that needs to be in that ordinance, or is it just going to the Board of Appeals I don't know how you address that. How would a resident that has a piece of property out there who can't get that buffer due to one reason or another on the restrictions in the land, because there's certainly a heck of a lot of wetlands out there. If they need that space for either a septic system, they need that space for their structure of their home, because it's infringing in on the setback. I mean, that's basically artificially increasing the setback they're required from the boundaries.
Well, actually, I put together something in anticipation that we'd be talking about that buffer. But I felt like tonight seems to have covered a lot of areas, and I didn't know if anyone wanted to continue that conversation. But I'm happy to share what.
Why don't we bring it up? Why don't we have that as a topic then to review?
We'll bring that up next time.
Yeah, we can do
Okay.
that. So we need to have that, to kind of clarify that, because if we put that into place, then we need a process for folks to go through. That's not expensive, to justify that they can.
It follows Paul around, that's pretty funny.
Got a nice view of your apartment, it'll follow you around.
I know.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
Okay,
All right, so I think that would be, so we kind of tie that into what Eric's available, because I'd like to get that wrapped up, so that we can get that on for June, right?
And are you working on the annual report
Yeah, I
I
usually
think that's
do.
due in November.
We never do it in November.
Oh.
We should change bring our GPC ordinance in. And
We'll
we
bring it
actually-
back.
We write that in and report as part of the records. We've never
Okay.
done it in for 19 years we haven't written one. So.
Yep.
No one's asking for it.
That's just in the ordinance, I remember.
Yeah, I know, we should change the ordinance
Okay.
and just include it as part of the report we give to the town.
I like
So when we bring the ordinance in here, we can mock it up.
We can do that.
We'll say what we do and do what we say.
Yep. We adjourning?
Good. Yeah, I didn't hear anyone say the motion.
Oh,
I motion.
Any
okay.
second?
Second.
All right, I hear first, second, all
All in favor?
agree, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Night.
Thank
Mike.